defining white monopoly capital properly is critical for us to be able to deal with the obstacles that we are faced with today. And understanding white monopoly capital is a historical understanding. We have been colonized in South Africa many centuries ago. That colonialism was then interpreted by the African National Congress and by the South African Communist Party as colonialism of a special type. Now that means that the white colonists who came to South Africa settled. They didn't just come and move out. They became part of the society, but at the same time, they also took over the society. They managed to take the land, and it was straightforward theft of the land. They managed to gain control of the means of production. They managed to control the whole economy. Now that colonialism of a special type then morphed into what we call today white monopoly capitalism. If you don't understand that thread that goes through our history, then you want to start talking about some kind of strange, amorphous, revisionist concept of just monopoly capital. Yes, monopoly capital exists in South Africa, but monopoly capital is clearly defined by the fact that the white minority in South Africa took very specific steps, discriminatory steps through law, to marginalize and to push into the margins of our society the majority of black people, especially Africans. So if you want to change this, you have to define what your problem is. Because yes, we want to change poverty. We want to have good and free and quality education. We want to deal with the issue of the exploitation and the subjugation of women and children. But all of this must be understood in the context of a white racist system that continues to persist in South Africa up to this moment through white monopoly capital. So that definition is critical for us to understand what we have to do. And what we have to do now is to change our policies so that we can fight this enemy of white monopoly capitalism. So it goes back to restitution of the land without compensation, to a change in the financial systems in this country and the banking system, where we have to make sure that we create a state bank, and we have to make sure that the definition of the task of the South African Reserve Bank is the same as the developmental state that the African National Congress governing party is pushing along. And then finally, we have to make sure that the overall ownership of this economy goes back into the hands of the majority of people, especially Africans. And we have to ensure that that process is not just going to benefit a small minority of black people, but that it will be as broad and as inclusive and as empowering as possible. So that is why I've been persistent in saying that white monopoly capital has to be defined clearly. Any revisionist approach to try and say that we do not have white monopoly capital or just monopoly capital smacks to me of a situation where we want to define our country in a way that will not allow us to deal with the enemy in a proper manner.